Hey, all my awesome fuzzbutts out there, and welcome to the first ever episode of the show that lets you hear some amazing stories from some of your favorite fursuiters from all over the furry fandom. Now, my first ever guest on this show happens to not only be a very good friend of mine, but he also happens to be blue as a blueberry, and he always seems to be pointing people in some sort of direction. Who am I talking about? Well, you're about to find out right about now.
It has to be said that behind every furry is a person. Behind every person, there's usually a story. From all walks of life and all corners of the earth, now you get to hear some of their stories. This is Up Close and Fursonal.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, first, here he is. This is Arrow.
Arrow!
First of all, Arrow, it's great having you on the show. You are actually our first ever subject, I guess, for this brand new show, so that must be a little bit of an honor for you. It's certainly an honor for us having you on the show, no less. And hopefully, by the end of this video, guys, you will know a little bit more about this little blue fellow than perhaps you may have thought of before. Now, basically how this is going to work is we have some questions for him, and he's going to answer them in the most fun and unique way he can possibly muster. So, you ready?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Alrighty. So, one of the more obvious questions, first and foremost, is before a furry ever becomes a fursuiter, usually the person has their own idea of a character, or in most cases, a fursona, as they call it. What would you say was the spark or kind of the initial idea process that sent you down the path that you're on with this fellow right here?
Well, I think it's a good time to use my real voice so I can talk a little easier, but, so anyway, hey, what's up, guys? This is what I really sound like now. Anyway, spark for it, well, you first gotta have an idea of what species you want to look for, and foxes have always been my favorite. Ever since I was a kid, there was a cartoon show on way back when, featured some gnomes, and it had an awesome fox, and I just fell in love with it. I loved that thing, and that's why the fox always became my favorite character. And, well, later on in life, I guess it was just kind of a thing, a spur of the moment, or what have you. I decided to just kind of give myself a name off that, because I always I want to be a fox kind of thing. If I ever had a choice to be an animal, I would be a fox. I say that's turning out pretty good so far. So, well, my favorite color and the most vivid color I can see is blue. So I figured, why not? So for a long time, I referred to myself as Blue Fox. Any videos, things like that. Hi, I'm Blue Fox. Well, Blue Fox sounds too standard. You look it up and there's millions of results, and there's no uniqueness to it whatsoever. And I figured it just needed that kind of more personal kind of touch, something that I own in a way. It's me, it works. So I got to thinking, and I figured a much more unique name would be to combine two words together, that being sky and the word arrow, which inadvertently becomes my full name, SkyArrowOryks. Now, coming up with the last name, that was a fun one. So I just take the short version of combining those two words together, Skyro, and I was playing around with stuff one day, and why not? So I did it backwards, and I'm like, because I originally thought of the name Skyro Kitsune, and as well as that might sound okay, when you really look into Japanese folklore, predominantly they're female. So that doesn't quite work for me, really. So I'm like, I'm going to make this more unique as well. So turning it backwards, I pronounced it, and I was like, that sounds pretty cool. So I'm going to use it, and I've had it ever since. So that, I'm sorry, what was the main question, just real quick there?
Before a furry becomes what would you say is the initial spark or the initial idea process that sent you down the path you're on right now?
Well, pretty much that, yeah. That's the big part of it. I was afraid I was getting off there for a second there, but yeah, pretty much that's what started it all. It's amazing it's come this far now, but gotta start somewhere.
Absolutely. Now, a fursuit is a big goal for a lot of furries out there. They think they have to have one in order to be a furry, which is kind of a misconception, but usually it is a very big goal and a very expensive one at that. Did you really have a specific reason why you wanted to be a suitor in the first place?
Well, the thing I love about this fandom is you actually don't need the suit to be a furry. The suit just kind of adds an extra bonus to the overall thing. If you can afford a suit and bring your character to life, it just is all that more enjoyable. I mean, you can have the utmost fun without it, and I mean, you don't need it, like I said, and a lot of them are very expensive. So, it comes down to it, is it something you can afford? Is it something that's going to make the furry experience more complete? Various questions you got to ask yourself, and 9 times out of 10, yeah, it really would add to the character so very much, but then it comes down to the money. So, various little things here and there, but yeah.
I think that obviously he completes you very well. For starters.
He does. I love it. It's pretty much my more playful personality in physical form now. Pretty much.
It starts from one place and it goes from there.
Heck yeah.
So, obviously, there are a lot of suit makers out there in the fandom, some amateur ones, some that have taken it to a more professional level, and yours being made by Lazy Lupe Creations out of Australia, of all places, which is very awesome, and he came all the way from the land down under up here to now be with you.
I know that.
What?
That was a horrible impression.
That was funny. What was it that stood out to you about Lazy Lupe when you selected her to be your maker?
Well, in the beginning, I wasn't sure who to go with. At that point, I didn't click to really go for a suit, but I was very curious about them. I was at a pool party once, and my friend Akari Weski, was there. And this is around the first couple times that I'd actually talked to her. I'd first met her and stuff like that. And we were just in conversation about suit makers and stuff like that. And I'm like, so, I mean, they're really expensive. So I don't know if I really want to, dish out that much money and stuff. But then it came down to questions of whether it was worth having suit, things like that. But as the time went on, I got more and more intrigued in it. And my main question was, well, who do you go with? And then she's like, well, my maker is Lazy Lupe, and she makes the awesome, cute suits. And I'm like, well, I'd never heard of her before. Never. And so I got curious. I decided to look her up. And it's actually, thanks to her, I actually have a FA. I mean, that's freaking awesome. Because you have to create an FA to, you can't view the account straight out. So now I have an awesome FA, and I was able to view the images. And honestly, when it comes to an artist, I can admire more how the progression goes. It amazes me. It's awesome. You see where they start, you see where they are now, and they can come so far, and sometimes such a small amount of time. I believe the time span is 2 years. And I got curious. I looked all the way back at one of her earliest her earliest things, which were just partials at that point. Partials, head, tail, paws. And then I saw her first suit, and then up to where she is now, and I'm just like, that's a hell of progression. That's an awesome thing to go from, where you start to now. It's really cool. And oh my goodness, her suits are so just gosh darn cute right now. I mean, So, I mean, that's the thing that really grabbed my attention. I'm just like, this is freaking awesome. I can't find this anywhere else. This is very unique, and I don't need a big company, big thing like that, cookie cutter, this, that kind of stuff. There are very unique makers out there but there are some that just have a look that is too much like all the other suits. And although her style is a one that you can, it's a Lupe suit, it has a soul uniqueness that belongs to the character. So the character is still preserved in his own uniqueness in a way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's what I loved about it. So I'm sitting on my computer one day, and yeah, price was a big thing at first, but I'm just looking through her terms and conditions, which are very thorough. That's another thing I can, I can admire, is when somebody, you know what you're going to get out of it. It's going to be this, it's going to happen this way, this, and that, and you have my guarantee. I like that. It makes you feel much safer knowing, your money is going to one hell of an investment. So, and I mean, this speaks for itself, pretty much. So, one day I'm just like, you know what? I can do this, let's do this. And then when I found out conversion rate between US and Australian is much cheaper, I'm like, this is a freaking steal. This is great. So I'm like, why not? Let's go all out. So I have her digi-padding, claws, teeth. It was worth every penny. I love it. And, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's incredible. I mean, I've seen a lot of Lazy Lupe suitors out there, and yours, a lot of others. There's
quite a few that I wish to meet as well.
Oh, I'm sure, cool. and you'll get to do your special shout-outs here in just a moment. But on the subject of Lazy Lupe, just in particular, of all the features that she put into your suit, or that your suit has specifically, what would you say is your favorite out of everything?
I would have to say the head is my absolute favorite. I mean, the entire suit has its optimal cuteness at every little turn, but the face, having the majority of my feature, I mean, my arrow, stuff like that. I think she did a wonderful job on the arrow. I mean, when I first commissioned her, even from reading, I knew she could do markings pretty well, but I'd never really seen it to this, like this. So I was kind of like, this could be really interesting to see. And it turned out so, perfect. I mean, naturally I cannot fathom, like, what must go into making a head and how you sew it just to where it comes out like this. I can't wrap my head around it. So it's a very cool, awesome thing, But yeah, all in all, it had to be the head. It's just freaking adorable. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, on that same subject, even though all suits are absolutely adorable, it's sad to say even the most professional grade ones don't have their faults, or are not without faults. If Lazy Lupe ended up watching this, would you say that there's absolutely anything that needs to be improved upon, like something that she could maybe do better in the future?
Really, from the feel and just the overall, there's not a problem at all. I mean, he has a couple of things here and there that may be a tad bit off, but it not only would add possible new features, like how she did the wrist white, but she put the other the stripe here. It adds to my character. So, yeah, that's awesome. And any various things here and there just add to the overall cuteness. So, in a general sense, I love it the way it is. I wouldn't change a darn thing about it. So, I'm happy to the utmost here.
Well, I think that you couldn't have said it any better. Now, going back to a topic we were touching on earlier, when you originally wanted to be a fursuiter, when you finally became one, when you finally got all of this, do you find that your goal or your sort of perception as a suitor may have changed a little bit from when you didn't have one to now?
I've always had a want, in a small sense, to be a suitor. Like I said, money was a thing, and where to have one, stuff like that. Now that I have one, it's even more awesome. My views of being awesome in the first place haven't changed. I'm loving it even more, and I have not had a chance to wear them to an actual fur con yet, but that chance is soon coming, and I'll just see what becomes of it. But yeah, it's it's an achievement. That's what it is. It's a huge achievement, and I'm ever so glad I went through with it. So.
Oh, absolutely. Now, obviously, the suit is only just part of it. There's obviously a person behind the suit that gives the character even more character, if that makes sense. When you get into suit, do you find that your personality changes dramatically, or do you kind of remain the same between being out of suit just as your normal self and this?
Well, really, I've always kind of operated on pretty much two personalities. I have my more playful side, and then I have the more professional side, which is more not as adventurous, but more serious and stuff. And then I have my totally adventurous side, like I got to do something right now, have my fun and stuff like that. I love to live life. That's a big thing about myself, and this is definitely a big step to that. But yeah, I love that with my playful side, which I don't get to show too often whenever I'm out of suit. I'm able to embody him more in this. This is Skyarrow. That playful side is Skyarrow. And although he's always in me and with me and stuff like that, here he can be with everybody else as well. And this is whenever he shows his face the most. I mean,
well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you touched on conventions earlier, and obviously you said you have not been to a furry con yet. However, you and I both did go to OniCon, the anime con down in Galveston, not too far from here. And on the subject of conventions, they can be a pretty big experience for suitors, especially ones that may have just gotten their suit, novice suitors, I guess, as you would call it. What really was it like for you? In your own words, I guess, what was it like fursuiting at a con for the first time?
It was awesome. Now, obviously, the difference between a fur con and an anime con is pretty great, considering there is a lot more awesome furs in there. But let's say there's not a decent amount of suitors at an anime con, but honestly, after going to TFF for my first con last year, I wanted more than anything to be the suit, at a fur con and just be the most awesome thing. It was cool. Walking around, seeing people's reactions. I mean, it's something I'm not entirely used to. It's totally new in that sense, but it's cool. People see this awesome thing they'd never really seen before, and at first you think the reaction could be kind of but then it's freaking awesome whenever they've taken to the utmost the interest in what is this? This is freaking badass. I want a picture with this or something, to those lines. And it's just like, it's awesome. I like it. But it was fun. Decent amount of suiting through that one, and I look forward to the first furry con. I do.
I'm sure you do. That's something a lot of fursuiters look forward to, is when they actually get to wear their suit at a con, especially for the first time, and not so much come under the scrutiny of other suitors or other furries in general, but just being able to finally get out and express themselves in that manner.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on, though, another thing that happens at conventions is obviously a lot of people have cameras, video cameras, phones, that kind of deal, wanting to record conventions or meets or whatever in as much detail as possible. You see con videos everywhere. And fursuiters in particular seem to be a big magnet for cameras, and not only for photography, but like we were saying, is videos as well. How photogenic of a person would you describe yourself as, kind of both ways, out of suit, in suit, that whole deal?
Naturally, not so much. I've done plenty of videos and just myself, but let's be honest, I don't like the sound of my own voice, in a sense. And having to edit it, you hear it constantly. But you kind of have to, because you got to make a video and stuff like that. So to that aspect, a minimal, but it's still fun. Being in suit, it's a hell of a lot more fun. I love seeing Skyarrow in videos and pictures and stuff like that. I mean, it's awesome. It's fun. And I'll be honest, in suit, I am extremely photogenic. I mean, pictures, things like that,
A little peace sign. That's just adorable. Now, this one may seem a little personal, but it is a very prominent subject, which is the media. The media has given the furry fandom quite a lot of black eyes over the years, and those, I mean, people like Uncle Kage, you know, Samuel Conway, he's been in front of the camera several times. But the media seems to focus primarily on the fursuiting aspect of the fandom, that not so much just furries in general, but mainly fursuiters, because that's the biggest, more visual attraction to the media. What would you say is your take on how the media has been portraying the fandom for the most part these days?
Personally, my view on the media has always been kind of because really when it comes down to it, it's just business. It is no longer, you know, this is how it really is. It's more of, what can I get more views on? What intrigues people more than what this is giving me? In some cases, it leads you to believe that they think that if the big picture is shown or something, it might be too boring for them. So you throw a curveball into the mix. Something to make them go, whoa, I didn't know that before. But in our sense, it's always been kind of in a negative aspect. Don't get me wrong, there is some videos these days that I'm ever so grateful that, you know, they've done. We've had some that have shown the how the fandom really is, and those are the ones that I love those. I like those. But the ones that are just in it for the views and are willing to show anything, even aspects that may have nothing to do with the general outlook of the fandom, I don't much care for. And I'm just like, you know, personally, I want the world to know what we really are. And what we really are is just, when you get a good look at the big picture, it's amazing. Like me, before becoming fully furry, I had no idea what was going on. So I was like everybody else out there. Didn't know what to think of it. And I took the time to get to know it, and I love every bit of it. In fact, I'm itching for more. I'm like, I want to learn everything I can about it, enjoy every bit to the fullest, and so far I have not been disappointed. It's freaking awesome. So in general, with media, I'm a little still iffy, but on the better side of the media, I'm like, we need more of that. We need more.
No, absolutely, and I love the go-getter attitude that, you know, we all want to see the better side of the fandom, and obviously it's not just that we don't want that out there, because unfortunately it's a sad fact of life. Stuff does happen and stuff does get out, rumors or truth, whatever. But I personally would agree with you on that I love the I'm not sure if you saw World of Weird recently, the one on Facebook where the presenter from the UK actually got to meet the Mischief Makers and got to try on one of their suits, and was in Southern California and actually got to do that. And that was a very awesome deal. And if you haven't seen that, I would suggest checking that out.
I'll definitely have to check that out.
But on a final note, and ending this on a very positive one, and stepping out of the convention scene, because it seems we've been focusing on cons a lot, stepping out of the convention scene for a moment, between the time you became a fursuiter and currently, right now, as you sit here in front of me, what would you say is your favorite moment you've ever had in suit?
SkyArrow is still green. He's still very fresh on this stuff. So, I've had a lot of fun moments. I've already had a couple adventures with you guys and such, and the fun at the conventions, things like that. But to be totally honest, I don't think all those moments are awesome. But the greatest moment ever, it hasn't quite exactly happened yet, but it's in the very near future, but I'm expecting it to be freaking awesome and to the utmost. So I mean, one can only wonder, and that's going to be something fun to share for times to come. Like, I'm living it, you know. This is great.
Absolutely. So obviously you've had a very wonderful story, and again, thank you so much for sharing all of your time with us. But as kind of our way of saying thank you, do you have any special shout outs you'd like to send to anybody in particular?
Shoot. I have a list of furs that I plan to meet in the upcoming years. Obviously, my maker, she's all the way in Australia, so I mean, it's a little bit of a shot in the dark, but it's something. Also, our boyfriend Fox, I followed him on YouTube for a good while here, and to meet him would be awesome. So, I mean, they're definitely on that list. Let's see. I always wanted to meet Uncle Kage. I mean, hell, he's a huge inspiration on, me understanding the fandom. I love his the one of Medias and the Furs. His greatest saying that always gets me is he says, if I hear somebody say no comment, I'm going to kick your balls to the roof of your head. Ladies, you'll just have to imagine. You'll have to use your imagination. I love that bit.
The words of the wise Uncle Kage is just, it's amazing.
And the way he talks, it's perfect. It's the voice that keeps you want to listen in. You want to know what he's got to say, and he does that so well. So anyway, also, I always wanted to meet Majira, Cosmic Wolfie, awesome people. I hear about them, and I love their freaking suits. There's more on that list too, even a couple of Lupe suitors I'd love to meet in the future. I mean, besides Kari, that I know already. Mm-hmm. Also, thanks so much, Akari, once again, because if it hadn't been for your recommendation, he wouldn't be here right now. This would not be a thing. So I'm ever so grateful of the cards that were put in place, and I'm ever so glad it came out so great. So that being said, I mean, here's to the future. I hope it'll be a great one.
Absolutely, absolutely. And guys, it has been a pleasure bringing you this interview. Again, thanks to Arrow for joining us here. And if you guys want to get in touch with Arrow here, find out all of his latest adventures and get to see more pictures and just get to know him a little bit better, I've included the link to his Twitter in the description box below. And also, if you want to get in touch with Lazy Lupe and talk about fursuits, you like what you see with him, feel free to check out her FA that I've put in the description box as well. But keep in mind, you do have to have an account for that. So in order to view her work, you will have to sign up for FA if you do not have one. But anyways, just for ref, I have put the link in the description box below as well. But that about does it for this episode of Up Close and Fursonal. We hope you guys will join us next time. But from here in the Up Close and Fursonal newsroom, this has been Sakura Raverhound and
Arrow.
And we will see you guys at the next convention, the next fur meet, or we will just see you around town.